Hello. So here's another comma exercise that we're going to go over. This one's on B16, and as always, you put in the commas and semicolons. Remember to do the exercise first, and then use this video to check your answers. Okay, here we go. Finally, comma, that's Rule 2, introductory modifier. The performers, comma, the most talented people in the school, comma, were ready to put on the long, challenging play, comma, which was a favorite of their teacher. And after performers, comma, and after school, and again, as we see in the previous exercise, that's in a positive. It's re-identifying information. It tells us more about performers, and that's comma Rule 6. And then at the end, after comma after play, and that's Rule 7 for which is a non-restrictive relative clause. So for this sentence, it's 2, 6, 6, 7. They had been rehearsing for months, comma, Rule 1, because the word so is a coordinating conjunction. So the expectations of the faculty, comma, students, comma, and parents were high. And after faculty and students are both Rule 3, of course, because those are items in a series. So for this sentence, it's 1, 3, 3. In fact, comma, the rumors going around the school, comma, which were started by the proud actors themselves, comma, were that this was to be the best play ever, semicolon. Therefore, comma, the pressure was intense. So for this sentence, it's after in fact, comma, and that's Rule 2, introductory modifier. After school, because we have comma Rule 7, non-restrictive relative clause beginning with which, comma, after themselves, because that's the end of the relative clause, which were started by the proud actors themselves. And then we have a semicolon after ever. And remember, the only semicolon rule is that both sides of the semicolon are independent clauses and could be complete sentences if they were by themselves. And what we see is the rumors going around the school where that this was to be the best play ever would be a complete sentence. Therefore, comma, Rule 2, that's a conjunctive adverb, the pressure was intense. And again, on that side, it's also an independent clause. Next paragraph. As the time for the play to begin quickly approached, comma, John, comma, the male lead, comma, was becoming increasingly nervous, semicolon, moreover, comma, he was having trouble remembering his lines, comma, especially the ones in Spanish. Okay, so as begins a subordinated clause, and the clause ends after the word approached, so it's comma Rule 4 after approached. John, comma, the male lead, comma, Rule 6, because that's in a positive, identifying information about John, was becoming increasingly nervous. John was becoming increasingly nervous is an independent clause, so semicolon. Moreover, comma, Rule 2, he was having trouble remembering his lines, comma, especially the ones in Spanish. For this, I just use Rule 7. It's non-restrictive extra information, even though it doesn't have which or who there, but I think Rule 7 is the best to use as a number for that. While John felt anxious, comma, Rule 4, because while is a subordinating conjunction and the clause ends after anxious. While John felt anxious, comma, he remembered the real reason that he was made the lead. And here you might want to use a colon, but since you're not allowed for the assignment, use a semicolon because that's an independent clause. He was the most handsome guy in the school, and that also is an independent clause. Knowing there were more talented actors who wanted the part, comma, Rule 9. John is the one doing the knowing, so the subject for the verb knowing has as its subject John, which is the main subject for the sentence. Comma after part, John sometimes felt guilty, comma, because of Rule 1, the but is a coordinating conjunction, but he tried out for the role because of love, period. Sally, comma, the female lead, comma, was attractive and talented, semicolon, she did not seem nervous at all. And it's Rule 6 around the female lead because it's in a positive, it gives more information about Sally, and a semicolon after talented because Sally was attractive and talented, semicolon, that's an independent clause, and so is she did not seem nervous at all. Next paragraph. When everyone in the packed auditorium was seated, comma, Rule 4, when is a subordinating conjunction, so the comma comes after the clause. Rule 4, the curtain rose, comma, so that's a short independent clause. Curtain is the subject, rose is the verb, comma, Rule 1, because that and is a coordinating conjunction, and the music began to play, another short independent clause. So for that sentence, the numbers are 4, 1. Using all her skill, comma, charm, comma, and emotion, comma, Sally performed flawlessly, comma, and the audience applauded when her scene was done. So comma after skill is 3, comma after charm is 3 because you got things in a series. Comma after emotion because that's rule 9 because using all her blah 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 blah. That's a present participle phrase that ends at emotion, and Sally is the one who's doing the using. Sally performed flawlessly, rule 1, because it's a coordinated conjunction with that and the audience applauded when her scene was done. So for that sentence, it's 3, 3, 9, 1. Feeling too nervous to go on, comma, rule 9, John is the one doing the feeling. John froze backstage, semicolon. The entire cast, it seemed, hovered around him. So that's, again, on both sides, it's an independent clause, and yes, there are commas around it seemed. Comma rule 5, comma rule 5. The cast hovered around him. And again, it seemed is a transitional or a parenthetical expression in the commas, rule 5, rule 5. So for that sentence, it's 9, semicolon, 5, 5. Sally made her way to him and said some magic words to inspire him. There are no commas here at all because Sally is the subject, made is a verb. There's an and there, but it's a compound verb phrase, not a compound sentence. Okay, so no commas in that one. She said, comma, perform for me, comma, or I'll hate you forever. Comma rule 8 after said for quoted dialogue, and comma rule 1 because that or is a coordinated conjunction. Remember, when it says perform for me, there's an invisible you. It's a command. You perform for me. Last paragraph. Forcefully, comma, rule 2, Sally yanked John up by the arm, comma, and the cast shoved him on stage. Forcefully, comma, rule 2, as I said, and comma rule 1 after arm because the and is a coordinated conjunction. Once he was before the audience, comma, luckily, comma, he did a fine job. Semicolon, Sally was very pleased. Comma rule 4 after audience because once he was before the audience, that's a subordinated clause with once being the subordinating word. Luckily, that's a independent introductory modifier before the main sentence. He did a fine job, semicolon. Okie doke, so I hope that helps, and thank you very much, and remember to make a comment to show that you've done this exercise. Thank you. Bye-bye.